The ship appeared over Nevada at 4:17 a.m., silent as a held breath. No fire. No sonic boom. It simply was there, hanging above the desert like a coin dropped into black water, its hull the color of dried blood under starlight. Within minutes, every satellite on Earth had a lock on it. Within an hour, the president was in the Situation Room in her bathrobe, and Colonel Renata Ashford was standing on the tarmac at Nellis Air Force Base, watching the thing hover with the particular calm of a woman who had spent 20 years learning not to flinch. "Talk to me," she said into her radio. "No radiation signature. No weapons lock. It's just, watching us," said the voice of Dr. Priya Osei, the base's lead xenolinguist, hunched over a bank of monitors in the command trailer. "Renata, it's been broadcasting the same signal for 6 minutes. I think it's a greeting. Translate it." A pause. Then Priya's voice again, quieter. "It says, we come to assess." They called themselves the Vanter, and they did not so much land as descend, 3 of them stepping out of a shimmering ramp of light into the cold Nevada morning. They were tall, 7 feet, easily, with skin like brushed pewter and eyes that held no pupils, only soft internal light. They did not carry weapons. They did not need to. Every human present understood, on some animal level, that these beings could have ended all of them without lifting a finger. The lead Vanter introduced itself through a translation device as Administrator Issa Thalvoran, and it spoke to Colonel Ashford with the patient, faintly bored tone of a building inspector. "Your species has been flagged for assessment," Issa said. 743 sapient civilizations exist within catalogued space. All have been evaluated. Yours is the 744th. "Assessment for what?" Ashford asked. "Classification," Issa said. "Every species is ranked. Most are tier 4 or 5, peaceful, contained, unremarkable. A small number reach tier 2. None, in recorded history, have reached tier 1. And if we don't meet your standards?" Issa's light eyes flickered, the alien equivalent, Ashford would later realize, of a shrug. "Then you are quarantined. For your protection, and ours." Priya, standing just behind Ashford's shoulder, felt her stomach drop. Quarantined. She'd read enough history to know what happened to peoples who got quarantined by more powerful others. It rarely ended in the powerless party's favor. "Then let's begin," Ashford said, jaw tight. "Assess us." The Vantir did not test humanity with weapons or war games. They tested with questions, delivered over the following 72 hours to teams of scientists, soldiers, farmers, teachers, and children pulled from schools in Ohio and Texas and Oregon, all patched into a translated broadcast the whole world could watch. "What do you do when one of your own is injured and cannot contribute?" A paramedic named Dana Whitfield answered without hesitation, "We save them. Doesn't matter if they can pay us back. We just do." "What do you do when your resources are insufficient for all who need them?" An old rancher in Montana named Walter Briggs, missing 3 fingers from a farming accident decades prior, answered on camera with tobacco-stained calm, "Share what's there. Then figure out how to grow more." "What do you do when you discover a truth that could destroy everything you believe?" A 12-year-old girl in a Cleveland classroom, hand raised before her teacher even finished translating the question, said, "You believe the truth instead. Even if it's hard." The Vanter recorded every answer. Their internal light seemed, to Priya's careful observation, to pulse faster with each one. But it was the final test that mattered most, and it came not as a question, but as a demonstration. On the 3rd night, Issa informed Ashford that a calibration event would occur, a controlled system failure aboard the Vanter ship, designed, they claimed, to observe how humanity responded to a crisis involving an alien species in danger. What the Vanter did not expect was that the failure, triggered in a compartment none of their own kind could safely reach in time, was real. A containment fracture. Radiation bleeding into the lower decks. 2 Vanter engineers trapped behind a jammed bulkhead, their vital signs weakening on every monitor in the command trailer. Issa relayed the situation with clinical detachment. They cannot be saved. The radiation levels exceed survivable thresholds for extraction in the time remaining. This will be logged as an acceptable loss. Colonel Ashford was already moving before the sentence finished. Get me a hazmat team and cut torches, she barked into her radio. Now. Colonel, Issa said, something almost like an alarm entering its synthesized voice. The radiation exposure required for a rescue attempt would be lethal to your species within minutes. Then we've got minutes, Ashford said, already pulling on a rad suit that wouldn't do nearly enough. Nobody dies in a hole while we stand around and calculate the odds. 6 volunteers went in, not soldiers ordered to go, but soldiers who stepped forward when Ashford asked, along with 2 civilian engineers who happened to be on-site running fusion diagnostics and simply refused to be left behind. They cut through the bulkhead in 11 minutes, dragging the 2 dying Vanter out into clean air, and did it while their own dosimeters screamed past red into numbers nobody wanted spoken aloud. 3 of the 6 humans would spend the next month in a burn ward. All 3 would survive. Dana Whitfield, the paramedic, had been among them, having driven 4 hours from her own shift the moment she heard the call go out on emergency radio, because that's simply what she did. Issa stood at the edge of the trailer afterward, watching the wounded being carried past on stretchers, humans surrounding them, not doctors ordered to attend, but a crowd of soldiers and scientists and even a few reporters who had put down their cameras to help carry water and blankets. You risked extinction-level exposure, Issa said slowly, for 2 members of a species you had known for 72 hours. Species who, statistically, could have destroyed your world if they chose to. Ashford, exhausted and soot-streaked, looked the administrator dead in its glowing eyes. That's not how we do math. The final assessment came at dawn on the 4th day, broadcast to every screen on Earth. Issa Thalvoran stood before the assembled crowd at Nellis, and for the first time since its arrival, its posture seemed to carry something like humility. In 743 assessments, no species has ever ranked above Tier 2, Issa said. Tier 1 classification requires demonstrated willingness to sacrifice individual and collective survival advantage for the well-being of others, including others of no prior relation and no possibility of reciprocation. We did not believe such a classification was achievable by biological life. We believed it was theoretical. The administrator paused, and the pause stretched long enough that Priya, watching from beside Ashford, felt her heart hammering. Humanity is classified Tier 1, Issa said finally. The first in recorded galactic history. A ripple went through the crowd, disbelief, then something rising underneath it, quiet and enormous. What does that mean? Ashford asked. For us. Going forward. It means, Issa said, that every civilization in catalogued space will now measure themselves against what we witnessed here. It means the quarantine protocol is void. It means, Colonel Ashford, that we did not come here to judge whether you were worthy of the stars. The administrator's light eyes dimmed briefly, something like reverence in the gesture. We came to determine whether the stars were ready for you. Above the Nevada desert, the alien ship began to glow, preparing for departure, not in retreat, but in invitation, a beacon meant to carry word across a galaxy that had just learned, for the first time in its long and careful history, what it looked like when a species ran toward the fire instead of away from it. Colonel Renata Ashford watched it rise into the brightening sky and allowed herself, finally, to breathe. Tier 1, she murmured. Damn right.